Oh, this just became my jam.
Listen, I was over here like,
I was like, wait a minute. I'm kind of getting it.
it's a little bop. I'm
It
not
was
mad
kind
at
of a
it.
vibe. It was kind of a vibe. Something that I needed because tonight
Ooh,
was not a vibe.
agreed.
Now, I'm
Agreed.
gonna be frank and say, like, we could just jump right in. I did come
Wait, we gotta. I'm
expecting.
Tiffany Linnell.
Oh, yeah, that. I'm Alex Haynes, and welcome to special coverage of the first primary GOP primary debate. Black Alert style. I mean, it's political season, so we kind of do this.
Kind of. We've been doing this a long time.
Yeah, yeah.
So we have a lot of notes from tonight. It was 8 candidates across the stage in Milwaukee for the first of what seems to be going to be 3 GOP primary debates. Um, let's start with why they're debating. One, it's a lot of them. And anytime you have a crowded field like this,
It's always a lot of them.
I know. I mean, back in 2020, we had, I don't even remember how many Dem candidates we initially had.
And that was beyond their primary. They had 12.
Was it 12?
12. I mean, if I could give it a try. Carly Fiorina,
Nope, nope, nope,
Little
nope. That's okay.
Marco,
Did you say
uh,
Little Marco?
Silly Ted. What did he call him? Oh, Lion Ted. Silly Marco, Lion Ted, uh, Pocahontas. Oh no, that was on the other side. He did call her. He did call that woman Pocahontas.
He did. He did. He did.
Yeah,
Well,
there was
yes,
a lot of
that's
them though. It was a
there.
lot.
There was a lot of them. There's a lot of GOP candidates, and this is just tonight was just the folks who qualified. So to qualify, they have to have at least 40,000 donors across 20 states, I believe, and they have to meet certain polling requirements and all of that. So 8 folks made it.
And they were elevated. They were elevated a little bit, because most of the people that were there tonight were polling at polling at 1%. So they were like polling at 1%. I think the significant, like, they nitpicked the polls, but
yeah, they had to. I mean, they had to.
I mean, here's the thing, though. So it gets confusing, and we do this to unconfuse it, right? Because you're gonna hear polls and polls and polls, and you're like, just like me. Ain't nobody calling me. No one's calling. Who has a house phone? So I know you didn't call nobody that I know. You did it. But regardless, you'll hear this from different sources, different news outlets, and it's important that you don't hear a poll number and don't just run with that number like that is the fact. Because it is usually a very small sampling, depending on the organization or organizations that came together to do the poll and what the criteria was for the poll. The way that they ask the question and the way that they share the results may not be the same. So I'm not telling you to, disqualify them, but do not highly esteem them. That's
especially at this point in the race. So that's one reason. This also allows I'm gonna just say their voters, their base, an opportunity to see, and really all of us, but primarily their base, an opportunity to see what candidates are present and fighting and trying to insert themselves into the race, and are they electable? Are they good candidates? What it's supposed to be policy conversation. There was some policy discussion tonight.
Was it supposed to be that? And I kind of want to land right there because I went into this and I said some variation of that to you when I talked to you earlier today. Like, what is this for?
Right.
Like, we know theoretically what it was supposed to be, what they say on paper, what it was supposed to be, but we also know what's happening in the country, right? We know what's actively happening. We know who it's happening to. And then we know, like, my analysis of this was actually a vice presidential debate. And we're going to, I don't know, like, this is the first time in history we should talk about it, that we're having a primary vice presidential debate with 25 candidates. None of them really want. I heard no winners tonight. And I say winner because the front runner for that party is like polling 54% over everybody else running. Most of
as
them
of today, it's 52.1% according to 538.
So I was 2% off. Again, you
still,
can't trust the poll. Right, exactly.
That's just as of today. So as of today,
what are we doing? What are we doing?
Polling at 52.1%. DeSantis comes in second at 15.2%. Ramaswamy is at 9.7%. Pence is at 4.3%. Scott 3.6%.
When we get to Ramaswamy, all syllables, every single one. And I'm going to give it the energy because this is the only time I'm ever going to do it. I promise you, if I have to talk about him again, it's going to be under 30 seconds because it's not worth it. Rerun this clip because today I'm going to let him have it. I'm letting him have it. But after that, no.
Yeah, because he's clearly, I saw someone on that Letter app that was like, he's clearly running for vice president. Like, this really was there were a couple of moments where I was like, okay, they're vying for president, but then, or they're at least starting the seed work of if they're going to run in even the next election after this.
It was extreme grandstanding.
Yeah.
Like I'm gonna disrespect you, but also if you become president, I would be your vice president. Like here's a nice jab. Here's a nice jab.
Yeah. Chris Christie got booed quite a bit.
Which he's, again, very much popular with people in the other party.
Yeah. Chris Christie, Asa, when they first got introduced, Chris Christie and Asa Hutchinson both got booed. Chris Christie, of course, is the former New Jersey governor. Asa Hutchinson is the former Arkansas governor. They stood together quite a bit in some of their responses to some of the questions. But Chris Christie, every time he was trying to answer certain things, he particularly got really booed when it came to him answering about Trump and all of that. And a couple of other answers that he gave. The audience was like, boo, no, boo. And I thought his response was funny, but also interesting.
I mean, it was very Jersey. I thought his response was very Jersey because he's very.
It was very Jersey. He was very Jersey all night, though. Which again,
But you know why he touts it a lot. He's like, I'm a Republican governor that got elected in a blue state,
right?
Because people in blue states are logical, and you were the logical choice. You were talking logical, sensical, but you're trying to do it. But Chris Christie falls flat because most of his argument, like he said initially, he was getting in there to really like give it to Donald Trump because nobody else would. Fine. Right. Barack Obama, there is not a moment I've seen Chris Christie get in front of a camera and not mention Barack Obama's name. Now, I don't know if he has some type of fetish. I don't know if this is some type of love. I don't know. I don't know what it is. I don't know if the name Obama turns him on. There's something about it that makes him say it every Chris, come on now. He was like, Barack Obama's this. Like, Barack Obama has been, this is kind of like, you remember when your mom was chastising you for something you did, and he was like, well, I don't give a damn about your friends. And here's the thing. I'm not saying I don't give a damn about Obama, because, we've got a very low literacy in this country. People may not understand what I'm saying at that moment. But Barack Obama's not the issue. In fact, Barack Obama's issues are solved. He'll never have to run again. His name doesn't have to be in anybody's mouth. There's no point. So
he was the only one, I think. I mean, it came up in questions on occasion, but for the most part, they weren't trying to talk about Barack Obama. So even when he was inserting Barack's name, it was like, okay, that was unnecessary.
Because for why are you doing this?
Yeah.
For why, Christopher Columbus Christie? listen, because it doesn't make sense to me. And the thing about that is, I also, I guess we're doing high level free thinking thoughts here. My thoughts about them is I just have to be sure that they aren't talking to black people ever.
I mean, they're
And
talking to some.
or 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 there is some semblance inside of them. I would call it the Lulu. I think that's what they're calling it on the clock app.
I believe so.
Of them believing that if they hold out long enough, they gonna find a bunch of massa loving jungle people like Tim Scott, and then everything will be all and well if we can just get all of them to think like him. But he's such an anomaly. And I'm going
Yes.
from him from Chris because this is how I'm like they don't care. They really
Right.
don't care. For you to talk about like for you because it's kind of like you talking about rocking shells, that's like you talking about family. So now we gotta say something. And I have my own problems with Barack Obama. Like I lift no president up like a king. I esteem
Right.
no, like I don't even know why you would want to do that. But since you're
Right.
doing it, please don't be an ass clown.
That's really all we ask.
It's really like, please don't.
It's
But don't
that
make
simple.
things worse or harder. And they were letting the things, I say that because A, they talk about Obama, but even when you say something like, there's a great, Tremaine Lee did a piece on woke. And I'll share it. I don't know where, because I don't really, but I put it out there. It's really good because it talks about like how it's something that literally it's used as a slur now. And
Right.
instead of saying black or in, you want to say woke. And it's like you don't want nigga politics. I mean, you know what I'm saying. So who are you talking to when you're like anti-woke? When I recall being 8, probably younger. And community members. We can say family, we can say friends. Listen, you don't know where you're about to be. You need to stay woke. Like this is something that it means. So we
That's
know
our
what it
community.
means. So there are people, and like y'all don't, but there are people that love our community as well that know that and they know what it means. So when you're like, we don't want this, you can't explain what it is, but you use it all the time. Who are you really talking to? Except people that yeah. So, I mean, of course, with 33% illiteracy, probably they are just assuming that people aren't going to be able to comprehend what they're doing. But I just think my overall analysis is disappointment because I do think that a republic masquerading as a democracy needs at least 2 strong parties. And that's that, right? This is not, this is a republic. Democracy-ish. We're always talking democracy, but that's not what this is.
Right. So let's get into the policy because I couldn't have summed that up better myself. And I want to start with the low hanging fruit candidates because I actually just want to get them out of the way. Number 1, Doug Burgum, North Dakota governor. I frequently forgot that he was present. I watched a few interviews with him over the last week and a half. He does not interview.
Really? Because he really was not like, he just qualified.
I know. He does not. Who was I don't remember who I was watching him on recently, but I was watching, I was like, and it was like they had him on, and then there was a panel right after he was on. So the panel discussed his interview and or the guest discussed his interview and was like, nice guy. That was a terrible interview. His answers were not good. They were simple questions that you were asking. I don't understand. So Doug, I at one point tweeted, zeeted, whatever we're supposed to say. I wrote on the letter app, just log out. And actually don't log out, delete the account. Like, just go ahead and hang it up. His responses were not even worth discussion. He's pro-life but doesn't support a federal ban, wants to leave it in the hands of the state, believes in innovation and education. I will note that he, and not he alone, but he did say he would shut down the Department of Education. We'll talk about the others who also said that, and that he raised his hand in support of Trump.
Because we must talk about what that actually means.
Right. So
all of this code is just kabuki, that's the word that you're supposed to say. Kabuki theater. But the thing about him, governor of North Dakota, and here I understand. I do understand, especially y'all talk about the heartland and all this, and these are the candidates that you think. Nobody wants the United States to be North Dakota. And I think he understands that. That's why he didn't want to go for like a federal ban. He's like, I get this. I do think that you're about 30 years late. Because your party, you were almost the same. That's why you were drowned out. Because you're just way too sane.
Yeah.
You seem like you got, you would be okay. We don't agree, but you're not going to tear shit up. Like this, we're not, the country's not there. You're just about 30 years late. You should have been down there with HW.
Yes.
That's why you're just not there. I'm
done talking about him.
I'm fine with that, actually.
He's literally not even worth another second.
I do think we'll see him one more time.
One more. Probably just one more time.
Because we're not there, but I think there's a certain people that they are embracing sane. It's like, oh, you're sane. I don't even know what you said or if you said anything. And I like that.
I don't think he talked enough though to get, he didn't have enough substance to him to even make himself, if I walk on the street tomorrow and find 5 Republicans who did watch the debate, maybe 1, maybe 2 out of those 5 are going to recognize the name when I say Doug Burgum.
I agree with you. I agree with you. And here's the thing. I think that we should probably also talk about the questions, because since they did not give credence or an equal balance of questions to the panelists, and you're going from one question, I don't think Doug got the right questions. I don't think he had the opportunity to answer the right questions, which is why I think we might see him again. I did feel bad for Christopher when they asked him about aliens.
I did feel bad for him when they threw the UFO question to him. Dang. But we're not there yet. Okay. Asa Hutchinson, former Arkansas governor. He was one of 2. Him and Chris Christie were the only 2 on the stage who did not raise their hand, saying that they would support a candidacy for Donald Trump. He said under our rules and Constitution, he could be disqualified. Basically, the question was,
I've heard that argument.
Yeah, if Trump were to win the presidential candidate ticket, if he were to basically win the Iowa caucus, would you support him? Raise your hand. Chris Christie, Asa Hutchinson were the only 2 who didn't raise their hand. Everybody else was like.
So I watched that. I had to rewind it a couple times because Chris's hand did go up.
It did, and then he changed it and said he was like, he said
he was like, he saw that he did not want to be in the company of the other ones with their hands up, and then he was like, never mind. But it was like, I've never seen so much pussyfooting around.
Right.
It was just like, y'all are all grown and you want to run the free world.
Right. Yeah, no. His reason was,
I'm not the way that you're even talking. It's like, do you live in the world?
And his reason was, he said he doesn't want to support anyone who disrespects the Constitution, and that the conduct that Trump has displayed, including now 4 indictments, are beneath the office of the president. So both he and Asa Hutchinson both referenced the Constitution and the rules. Chris Christie just added in the conduct into the conversation. The rest of them said they will raise their hand in support. Ramaswamy, Pence, Nikki Haley, Nimrata, aka Nimrata, Tim Scott.
Nimrata is her real name. So it's like aka Nikki.
Right. I don't think I typed Nikki a single time in my live tweeting tonight. It's Nimrata at this point. And the Satan, all of them raised their hands to saying they would support him. Ramaswamy took it a step further and said he would also pardon him on day one and that he was the best president ever.
I was waiting. I was trying to get the right. There is a. Now I can't get it. Is it Ramaswamy or Ramaswamy?
Ramaswamy.
DR. There is one of those in every culture. That's the black version of Vivek Ramaswamy is Omarosa Manigault. And I could not. I was trying.
Oh, I thought you were going to say it's Tim Scott.
No, because Tim Scott is like Vivek is a slick talking asshole. That is literally he's divisive. He likes to I don't know if they still use the word jock. He's on it, like he's really and he's like whatever's hot. I'm a fast talker. I'm quick with my words. I'm quick on my feet. I'm like that. He feels like he's like Donald Trump. He said a lot on the campaign trail already that he's further to the right than Donald Trump. I'm gonna go there. I'm like, and the things that they're saying, like Ron DeSantis said this again tonight, and I know we're gonna get to this, but you can't double down on saying you're going to kill people because they want to come to what are you even saying out of your mouth?
Right.
We're gonna kill them dead. Like what? What are you even? What? Party of family values and Christianity. My God, today.
Well, he also at one point said that the nuclear family was the response that was needed to dropping education levels. That was one of his responses, that the nuclear family, that education can be partially blamed on mothers getting paid more not to have fathers in the house, and fatherless homes are contributing to our lower education levels, and the nuclear family is the way to go.
Listen, we're not a big network. I don't have a bunch of charts and graphs. But when it comes, like, the families that you're paying are the people that are voting in your party. When you look at the chart of the people that receive welfare, it's like white people way up here. Like, what? It's way off my charts. I don't need a chart for that. And then everybody else, like, even us. Us. Way down. Welfare, food stamps, Medicaid, that's the one that you're not the old people one.
Right. Because what we do know how to do is hustle and figure things out. Okay?
I'm just saying. Why are you saying, like, y'all always be talking about policies you're going to take away from your own people? I just don't get it.
It's so baffling. It's so baffling. Y'all are talking about people in your party. Okay.
Because you made them believe that that's who we are. But it's not.
Right.
It's just not.
So that was the Trump question.
But can you also address why nobody answered questions?
I can give my opinion because there were a couple of questions. They talked about missiles over in Taiwan and China that I don't know. I don't even remember what Tim Scott said, but he like answered something and then moved on. Somebody else answered something and then like they would say one word, but then took it right back to the question that they wanted to answer.
They go back to their GOP talking points.
Yeah,
like, these are my talking points. I don't know anything about but my talking points. Oh my God, you just asked me about education. Oh my God. Well, but Joe Biden and his war on oil. I asked you about education in public schools.
So what does that have to do?
What does that have to do with anything?
With what I just asked you? Yeah, it was not good.
Oh, it was the homelessness question. That's what I had to jog my memory. They said, what would you do to solve homelessness?
Yeah,
and
nobody answered that.
Mike Pence answered with the Democrats' choice to defund the police. Like, that's how he started his response. I'm sorry. The question was about homelessness. Like, how would you end homelessness? How would you deal with that? He went further to asking that question. Your administration holds the blame for the significant homelessness that we have because of the COVID pandemic. How would you address that? And his response was the Democrats' choice to defund the police in our cities. Oh.
And then said that we need federal support behind law enforcement so that we can bring our cities back. What?
Vivek said, let's take the troops out of Ukraine and put them at our border. Then Ron jumped on top of that and said, and kill them. Kill them.
With force.
Kill them.
With force.
Now, they've said the same thing about us and many other races and ethnicities in this country. So am I surprised to hear it from somebody? No. Am I surprised that this person that I'm hearing it from is even elevated to the point of running for president of the United States and actually has a platform? Actually, no. You know why? Because I know history. Because it's there. It's available. It was available for me. I could still go find it. And that's why I feel like we have to be more vocal, because I think I watched this tonight and just got mad.
Yeah, it was a lot of, it was a lot of redirects, but it was also a lot of redundancy in their responses. They were feeding off of each other. They were saying, oh, well, no, it's because da, da, da. It was just a lot of no. And I don't know another way to say that. It was a lot of no.
No. No is the best way to say no because it's universal.
Yes. Okay, which topic do you want to hit next? Immigration. Since we were already somewhat talking about that.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so immigration, there were a couple of different questions on immigration. One was they were talking about, what do you want to do about the wall? Because there's some conversations about how they would restart the construction of the wall, which I just think is crazy. I think it was Tim Scott who said it would take $10 billion. Yeah, let's fire a bunch of IRS agents and hire more border control agents. For $10 billion, we could finish the wall. Quote.
First of all, no, not with my money. How about you reverse it instead of waiting till 25, since this is the magnificent idea? Why don't you reverse because they are so bold now. It's like, we need a president in office because taxes, Trump's tax cuts expire in 2025. And if we don't have a Republican, we're not going to have them. Like, that sounded like panicking to me. That sounded like somebody's overextended. You should have sell that boat, sell that house. You shouldn't have bought it. That's what it sounds like to me. Instead of you trying to... the man y'all elected that has 4 indictments and 91 federal charges, that man said Mexico was going to pay for the wall. Now you want $10 billion from Americans? No, Mexico didn't even pay a peso. Hell no.
Mind you, the project has already cost $15 billion. And there are materials, and that gets into like the environment issues of the materials just sitting there rotting in the soil and in the dirt and on the land. It goes into the waste of materials. It goes definitely into that additional $8 trillion that Nimrata named that was added during the Trump administration to our national debt levels. And of course, we were doing some fact checking. It was $8 trillion. She was right on the money.
And the thing is, He was the one that took it further than anyone has ever. So for you to ever open, you're like, I was sitting here like, okay,
bold.
what you can't do is come at me with some just bold, wrong facts when you literally, A, can't win elections, B, we have to play cleanup every time y'all are in office.
Yes.
C, trickle down politics. Once I explain it to somebody, like once I tell them what y'all really want to do, and I'm not saying anything that you don't say. You're like, cut the taxes for the wealthy, and you'll see as it gives them the opportunity to provide more jobs and increase wages. It hasn't happened. It hasn't happened. It hasn't happened. It's never happened.
I mean, the fact that Tim Scott said, let's fire a bunch of IRS agents, which, they're trying to get rid of the IRS. They want to apparently get rid of the Department of Education.
Of course,
they want to get rid of the Department of Justice.
Rid of the IRS.
Say again?
Of course, crooks would want to get rid of the IRS, justice. Like, why wouldn't you?
Right.
Why wouldn't you? Why you don't see the point of equality if you're not in charge? And that's kind of what it is. It's freedom on your terms. You're like, they're pushing this, oh, we don't believe in indoctrination. Then what the hell are you doing?
We're not even there yet. Let's finish immigration because I can't even. Chris Christie said that he absolutely wants to make sure that those who come illegally are not rewarded and believes that they should be detained and then sent back. Again, we already went through what Tim Scott said. What
does the Constitution say?
Hold on. Asa Hutchinson believes that the border. So there was this tie-in of the question, and this was another where they were redirecting, where they were talking about helping and sending additional funding over to Ukraine to fight Russia, or it was like a either or for some of the candidates. We either do that or we secure our border. Why are we helping somebody overseas when we can't even secure our border against cartels and drugs and illegal immigrants and all of that? So Asa Hutchinson essentially says, and so did Chris Christie, and so did, not Chris Christie, so did Mike Pence, and so did Nimrata, all agree, we can do both. We are a big enough and a resourceful enough country that we can both secure our borders and send additional funding over to Ukraine to help them with what's happening over there. So Asa
that was probably true at one point.
Right, but debt ceiling. So, but anywho, Asa Hutchinson said that we can.
How about bad credit can't get no more debt?
Well,
how about that?
Yeah.
Let's not, because Nimrata is the one that didn't want to talk in theory. She wanted to talk in facts.
Right.
This United States just got its credit rating lowered. This month, 5 national banks, primary lenders, had theirs immigration.
And that's after the banks have, a couple of them have just shut down. So, but we didn't talk about that tonight. That's a whole other conversation. Mike Pence said that he would partner.
I can't let it go. I can't let it go. You can't be forcing your citizens to have good credit when your country glitching like Robot Ron.
Mike Pence wants to partner with Mexican leadership and the military to hunt down and stop the cartels, and says that when Biden opened the borders, it let the drugs back in. I think it was Tim Scott who blamed China for sending over the drugs, sending over the chemicals. Let me make sure I get it right from my notes. Somebody blamed China and said it's their fault because they're sending over the chemicals that the cartels are using to even make the drugs in the first place. I have that under, I think that was Tim Scott. But it was. Yeah, that's what I thought. And so I didn't hear Ramaswamy respond to that. I actually don't care what he would have said. DeSantis, aka DeSatan, as I like to call him, wants to support more border patrol and restart construction on the wall and use force at the border, which again, Tim Scott would cost an additional $10 billion. I have not seen any evidence that there is an estimate of how much it would cost to actually finish construction on the wall. The point is, there's materials just sitting there on the earth that are just wasting away. And we've already spent $15 billion on this failed project from your party. But I find it very interesting that y'all want to spend money to finish construction on the wall or hire more border control agents. When we were talking about economics and Bidenomics, as they like to call it, and all of that, Nimrata again said, actually, Republicans and Democrats are to blame. Republicans added $8 trillion during the Trump administration alone. The Democrats, I think it was like 2.4 trillion or something like that she said the Dems requested in funding. Like, so if y'all don't believe in government spending, and when you're talking about Biden, you say we have to reduce government spending, we have to turn off the faucet, is what DeSantis said. We've got to cut the faucet, and we've got to make sure that we, cut government spending and send that back to the states. But yet in another breath, you want to use another multi-billion-dollar deal to finish construction on a wall at the border that already used $15 billion during the Trump administration.
Since I can't really conceptualize $15 billion, because I can't, that part just slips right past me because it's going to be no. Like, you fire the IRS, I'm not paying those taxes for you.
I'm
just not doing that. I'm not doing that. What I also heard is violence, though. I heard so much violence from a party that wants to talk about crime. Okay? You always talk about crime that you done drummed up, that you've been aided, you people.
But you raise a good point.
The violence and the heinous actions towards humanity will cost you. You will end up paying or suffering, or this country will suffer. Inhumane act. If you are killing people for trying to cross lines that you drew, that you actually stole from people and land that doesn't belong to you, you will suffer for that. One body was found stuck in the lines of orange buoys installed by Texas authorities near the U.S.-Mexico border. Like, these are people are already dying because Hot Wheels is down there, really probably putting things on land that's been drawn and paid for by pesos. And y'all, it is the heinous nature of, like, when people say in this country all the time, it's not who we are. In fact, it is exactly who you people are. It is disgusting. It's heinous. And the fact that all of you have aggregated to form one party, to me, just seems kind of like amazing, right? The fact that you all choose to identify yourselves, it's like, oh, we're also partisan, and we're so also, listen, I am accepting to everybody in any way, whatever you want to believe in this free country with rights that I have. But again, the VR thing is messing me up, so I'm going to just say VR.
Okay.
Because he probably is VR, AI or something. But the thing is, he was even trying to float, just like he has these conspiracy theories confirmed, not alleged, his voice, that 9/11 was a government conspiracy. That's the only thing their cuckoo's nest was missing, and now they got a 9/11 conspiracy theorist. But he was also trying to float the idea.
I missed that. I've heard a lot of things come out of his mouth, but I missed that.
It was all on the circuit today, and they had the actual tape, because he tried to say the reporter lied, and then he just pressed play. And look, Wild VR, that's you. That's you. I didn't pull that audio because I didn't think we were going to get there. But he also floated that he wanted, if he became president, he would like to end the natural birthright of becoming an American. And again, you're speaking to the people that are anti-woke. Like I know, like we know what we know what this is. But
well, he also said that everyone should be required, when it came to the conversation of education, that everyone should be required to take the same citizen test that he and his family had to take. And I want to have a fuller conversation about that, but before we get to that, I want to circle back to something else that you said. Because there was another question that they did not answer when it came to talking about immigration and crime. They were asking them about, Brett and Martha were asking them, which I will give them this. They had some really good questions, and they did come back. If they caught them in a lie that was easily provable, they were like, but you said, or this is what you did when you were in office in your state, or Pence, when you were in office in the White House. So I do appreciate them for that. But they asked about gun control. They asked about, the Democrats are saying that crime is up because of easy access to guns. What are your responses? And almost all of their responses had nothing to do with gun control. Absolutely nothing to do with gun control. One of them said, actually a couple of them, DeSantis said that the crime is because of the state AGs and district attorneys, and we need to take on a small town. What's his name? The one that we always forget, Burgum. He said we need to take on a small town mentality of helping each other out, which, okay, sure.
he actually said small towns are going to bring America back.
Where do you get this stuff?
Just like I don't know nobody that wants to go to North Dakota, Doug. I really, really try my best to get the hell out of small towns if I happen to end up in one.
Quickly.
Now, I can't speak for all Black people. Never try to do that. That's not my thing. Right. I'm a numbers person, and though I'm not a math person. And so, all you have to do is look at percentages. Okay, you can look up North Dakota, because I don't have to do it for you. I already know the percentage of Black people in your state. Now, look at the crime rate. And you know what? I'm not even going to do that today. I'm not even going to go there. But I will say this, Doug, and others. As the country, unfortunately, to some, continues to brown, you're going to have to expand your mind. Wendy Williams said it this way: expand your minds, dummies. But you are going to have to do something different to reach somebody different. Like, you've tried to steal the election. It doesn't work. You are like, now people have tuned into everything that you're saying all day long, because everything's recorded, everything's on tape. So Vivek also, like, sir, you want to take away Americans being born American because you weren't born, or I mean, not sure you were, but you're, and then you want to raise, he first came on the scene talking about raising the age limit to 30 because young people aren't voting for them. That's the same thing as changing the requirements in Tennessee on voting because you're gonna lose. Like, you can't, it's like, oh, but you can't see me doing it. I'm
Don't look behind the curtain. There's nothing back here. It's which while you were talking, I just had to go look up the Black population in North Dakota. I can almost guarantee I will never visit that state. Ever. You can play this on a loop. I can 99.9999% sure I will never visit North Dakota looking at those. I am not welcome. And that's not me saying that it's a racist state at all. But
right. I'm just saying, I don't have to say that it's racist. I'm just saying that It's not a lot of people in racist states. I'll say it that way. How about
I
that?
think you and me would probably get it to 5 points if we were to go. I'm not.
Come on now.
I have.
Come on now.
I
Come on
me.
now.
I have no business being there. Okay, and I'm going to stand by that, and we'll let y'all Google that.
Listen, I ventured out into the heartland this year. I began the year. I went to Utah, and it's
Utah is
like,
not the same as North Dakota.
to me, it is. It was. I went though. I went, and I met some fine people. Probably all Mormons, but they were really nice people. Utah is the capital of Mormons. That's not a shock. That was not outrageous. It was not. It wasn't out of bounds. When you go to Utah, you meet no Mormon. Like when you go to Atlanta, you meet black people. Well, you used to. You know what I'm saying? Like that's just how it's set up. You go there. When you go to North Dakota, I'm telling you, you won't see Miss Mabel. She's not there.
I can't get collard greens there.
You probably
no
do.
one there is making. I'm sorry, I can't get collard greens that I want to eat. Do they have hot sauce in that state? You know what? So back to crime. I'm gonna get to Ramaswamy's response in a minute because it was just so freaking outrageous. I would
like to really delete him.
Like, I also want him to delete his account because I
want to delete the AI program. Let's just.
I mean, Chris Christie did call him Chat GPT, which I admit I was over here hollering. He was like 10 minutes in, he was like, I'm already sick of this guy who is on this stage and sounds like Chat GPT. I said, oh no.
Yeah, and that was a rehearsed line, but it was one of my favorites.
It was absolutely scripted, and it was also one of my favorites. They were chummy at the end, so whatever. But we already talked about Pence's answer, talking about funding for police and all of that. Chris Christie said that, money isn't the answer. Prosecutors aren't doing their jobs and arresting criminals. He would hire an AG to promote federal oversight and empower prosecutors and state AGs to take over and punish violent criminals. Asa Hutchinson just said we need respect for our justice system and the rule of law. Not one candidate said we need to get these guns off the streets. Not one.
That. They don't believe that. And I had someone text me like, well, I'm not hearing anything I agree with. I'm like, yeah, I don't know. I know.
Did they expect to?
I know. Yeah, they did.
Now I will say I did agree with Nimrata on the fact that Trump brought in $8 trillion in addition to our debt.
She was the fact, so I don't think I agree with her. I agree with the fact because that is a fact.
That's a good point.
I don't agree with anything about Nimrata. She's a liar. She's a She flip-flops. She lied about that damn flag, that Confederate flag in her state. She played in the black people's face at Mother Emanuel. I still am mad about it. I talked about her for weeks upon weeks. And you can probably find it. And I still
it's out there somewhere. And just the same way. For context, Nimrata is the former South Carolina governor and U.S. ambassador to the United Nations, which I'm still not sure how she. Well, yes, I am. I am sure how she got that job. But anywho, I have a real problem with any candidate for any office at this point, local, national, federal, like any level of politics or government. I have a problem if you are not willing to talk about the fact that we have a guns issue in this country. There's absolutely no reason that semi-automatic rifles need to be on the streets. There's not a reason in the world. If you are trying to kill a deer with a semi-automatic rifle, I have way more questions for you.
You are hitting the nail on the head. And I started making a list. It didn't get long enough because I had to move on to the other nonsense that was spewing out of the gas traps we watched tonight. But I will say that they are going to lose.
Yes.
Sadly. And Vivek, I mean, where you're right, Vivek, you're right. Young people are not voting for. I don't care. Like they are born with something different. They hear something different, and that's why the numbers are so bad for you. You can try to y'all have been indoctrinating them. That's where racism comes from. That's where bigotry comes from. It's taught. They see it and then they emulate it, and then you call it Jesus, and then they're like, oh well, I'm like, and they're like, they feel like they're right, and then you know they freak out when they're attacked, and so they either lash out, they try to take power, they kind of like all of. And so what's happening, you guys don't realize that the playbook for what you're doing has already been written. They're going to lose. Climate change, I know that we were headed there. Another question that went unanswered. And Robot Ron, that's the first time he unglitched. Like, they asked to raise your hand if you believe that human activity is impacting the client. How about?
I don't want to talk about this.
How about
this isn't what the conversation should be about. What?
Oh, it should be. And if you don't know that every kid born probably after 1996, the only thing they care about is the planet.
Yes.
First and foremost. Okay. Yes. First and foremost. And it's that serious. I know you didn't see that in Ephesians 3:20, Tim. I know you didn't see it there. I know that you tried to throw that out there. I really felt like you were a Galatians type person, Tim. However, you know, like for y'all to be in complete denial, and then it's that issue. It's the lies. It's abortion. Because hands off your body.
Period.
And then Tim's like, oh well, this country was founded on Judeo-Christian values. Listen, either you're gonna go with the Constitution and be a constitutionalist, because whether it was founded on it or not, it was also founded on you, Tim, being 2/3 human. Literally,
hello,
the same reference.
Hello, that part. And
they also was talking about separation from church and state. So for you to sit up here and act like George Washington was a damn reverend, okay, like y'all are just. This is why you're gonna lose, though. It's not a winning argument. Ron, you can say, you can try to obstruct. They're gonna undo everything that you're doing down there in Florida. Your time will come. When you pay Ron, it's gonna be something serious. It's gonna be something serious. Casey ain't gonna be able to save you. Gonna be and nobody's coming to your rescue. No. It's just gonna be what it is.
Yeah.
And, you know, unfortunately, heinous people sometimes have heinous accidents, things that they can't recover from. I'm not saying that this is gonna happen to him. I'm just saying what happens sometime. Whitney Houston, sometimes, not always, sometimes.
I mean, you used to pray the Psalm, so I guess this is growth. But
those people got up and stood on the Senate floor and prayed Psalm 91 the day Barack Obama got inaugurated.
And you are right. But I do find it interesting that he and Pence both relied heavily on scripture, including from abortion to education. Like I said, Ramaswamy was like, oh, the nuclear family, blah, 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 whatever, to all of that. Pence, when talking about abortion, was, you know Pence, when I gave my life to Jesus Christ, I immediately tuned out. Like, I'm a preacher. I immediately was like, I don't want to hear anything else you got to say. Because the fact of the matter is, you cannot use the Savior that I know, the Black Jesus that I know and serve, who's my brother, my homie, my friend. You cannot use that Jesus. You cannot use my divine God to defend your belief that you have a right and a privilege to make a decision about what I or any other woman or birth-giving person does with their body. That is none of your business. And I don't know how many more times we have to say that. Now, I will say Nimrata made the most sense when it came to abortion. I'm not saying I agree with everything that she said.
Also flip-flopped, because that's not the
Also
stance she's
flip-flop,
always
because that is
had.
not what she used to
However,
say.
she knows that she had a losing strategy. She doesn't want to lose.
Yes.
Tonight, Nimrata showed that she, like the coaches used to say to the football team, you know, y'all lost, you sucked tonight, but you had heart. She showed tonight that she
oh my
had
God,
heart.
that is the perfect description. Yes.
She's still a liar from the pits of South Carolina.
Absolutely a liar. She proposed consensus. And, you know, part of the talking points of the Republicans is the Dems believe that you should be able to have an abortion all the way up to late term or final trimester. And that, like, nobody is saying that.
So here's the thing.
It's not a huge
population. Y'all wanted to pick up voters. That's what I thought the whole goal of this was. I thought the goal was to pick up voters. I thought that y'all wanted to connect with people. I thought, like, because nobody's doing that. Nobody, even to quote my auntie in my head, everybody's pro-life. Nobody is out here wanting to, like, you use the verbiage right there because you want to divide.
Right.
And then you quote some scripture and you like try to you mess with people's minds, because people literally blank out when they hear God, they hear Jesus, they hear love, they hear baby. There's certain words that just make humans psychological.
Right.
And y'all know that. So you play to these people and you play in their faces, you turn them against each other, and people that have had to take care of situations with their own bodies because they had to manage their own lives should be their issue.
Between them and their doctor, period. And Nimrata was like, you know, what's wrong with us coming to a consensus? She said we need 60 votes in the Senate and a majority in the House in order to pass anything that would be federal legislation for abortion. Let's be real. That's not going to happen.
We'll never
happen.
What she also said was, she said, we don't have them now. And she knows that the party is, not only is it dying, it's weak, it's whack. It's weak and whack.
Yeah. And I was talking about her state earlier. It's interesting that she says that because South Carolina just recently in February got an all-male bench on the Supreme Court. And now today, as of today, they just passed another restrictive abortion, 6-week ban on abortion in South Carolina they are the only state in the nation now to have an all-male bench on the Supreme Court. So all of these men, except for one, it was a 4-1 decision in South Carolina to instate this 6-week ban on abortion. So, and again, that's South Carolina, and South Carolina has a state trifecta. So for anyone who doesn't know what that means, it means that the governor and both chambers of their legislature are all Republican majority. Like you said about DeSatan, some of these states are going to start seeing their seats flip in quite a bit of areas because abortion has definitely become a hot button issue. Many people, again, I don't personally know anyone, but they act like Dems by and large want a woman or a birth-giving person to be able to have an abortion at 9 months. That's not the conversation that we're having. What we're saying is that by many research studies and by many accounts, Google it. Like I could list a few of them. Many women don't know that they're even pregnant within 6 weeks. So to instate a 6-week ban on abortion is outrageous when many women don't even know they're pregnant yet. And so that's the conversation that we're trying to have. We're also having the conversation that you want to ban the drugs that should be available as a reproductive or women's health need. You're trying to get rid of that. You're trying to get rid of access. With South Carolina gone and now having a 6 to 8 week ban, Georgia has the same, which of course that's still back and forth in litigation. The Southeast now has no haven. South Carolina was the last haven. Before today, they had a 22-week period of time before there was a ban on abortion. That's now gone. So now in the Southeast region, we're done. Everybody else is either a total ban or a 6 to 8 week ban. South Carolina was our last one. So I find it very interesting that Nimrata said that today. But I also found it interesting that Pence then came back and responded to her and said, one, he thought it was possible to get 70% of the votes in the Senate and the House majority to pass a federal ban. But he also was talking, his Jesus, because his Jesus is not my Jesus. I don't know who his Jesus is. But he's talking about that, and he's talking about, once again, their talking points that the Dems want to be able to have an abortion at late term and all of that. And they're talking about, we need to just do what we need to do. But then the other side was talking about it's in the hands of the states where it needs to be. That was the law of the land. I think it's where it needs to be. I agree that Roe v. Wade should have been overturned. It should have been in the hands of the states in the first place. We don't federally have the right to tell any woman what to do. That's not the federal government's business. So how is it not the federal government's business?
It is changing the goalposts over and over. So y'all wanted it one way. Now where we struggle, and as I was listening to you, it's that old adage of once you're explaining, you already lost.
Right.
And they have gotten this narrative. Like they did overturn but this is 50 years of work to get Clarence in there to do their dirty work, right?
Right.
But states that they never expected are codifying it as a right just as fast as they did that.
Right.
So states that they never imagined. That's why Tennessee is Tennessee is right there by South Carolina and North Carolina and like all of this. And then Tennessee freaked out because it's like, oh, it's going to be on the ballot. Well, we need to have a special election so that we can have a requirement to make it harder for it to pass when it's on the ballot.
Yep.
Guess who showed up at the special election? Yeah. Mm-hmm. In Tennessee. Yeah.
Illinois. Ohio too. They just had a vote on issue 1, which would have made it easier for them to pass the abortion ban in Ohio. Ohioans showed up and said, no, you will not. They basically wanted to change the rule so that it was instead of getting, I think it was a majority rules, they wanted to basically lower the standard for passing legislation in Ohio. And if it had passed, then they would have been able to, it would have been more likely that they would have been able to pass the abortion ban that they being Republicans wanted to pass in Ohio. Ohioans showed up and said, no, you will not. You will not change the rules. As you just said, move the goalpost in order to make your priorities our priorities. Absolutely not. You cannot.
Well, it was already going to be on the ballot in Tennessee in November. That's why they did that. But
same in Ohio.
It's still going to be on the
Same in Ohio.
Oh yeah. Okay. It's still going to be on the ballot in November, and it's going to get codified, just like it happened in Illinois, and just like it happened in Michigan. And it's just going to happen because you guys refuse. Like if you could still be conservative and embrace truth, embrace humanity, embrace the people, like breathe some life into your damn party.
But if they were going to do that, then they would have had better responses to the climate change question, to the gun control question.
They're not going to do it.
They're not going to do it. Ramaswamy said when he was asked about climate change, he literally said climate change is a hoax and more folks are dying from bad climate change policy than they are actually from climate change. And I just wanted to throw something at him and say, step outside. Look at the weather across our country alone, let alone across overseas. Look at the ice caps that are melting. Look at the earthquakes and the hurricanes and the tornadoes and the wildfires and everything that are happening across the
That would
US.
be a mute. That's a mute point for him. He just says things for clout. He doesn't even believe it. Like
And it just is, it's so ridiculous. Like it just, I want to get to the education piece, and because I'm really just over even talking about most of these folks. I will say that I thought it was,
they are very sad.
it's
Honestly.
very sad, despicable, many other things. When talking about Ukraine,
Agree.
huh?
I said agree.
Oh, when talking about Ukraine, of course, we all know that Pravinsky, I don't remember how to say his name, Provenzo, the man who led the mutiny a few months ago in Russia, died in a plane crash today. Mike Pence and Nimrata both called Putin a murderer, and said he's got to go. Now I'm doing the same thing you were doing. Ramaswamy was saying that he would, the question was, would you send additional funding over to Ukraine? He was like, no, we need to secure our own border. DeSantis said the same thing, that he would send troops to the southern border, and, whatever. Mike Pence said, we can do both. Nimrata said, we can do both. Bergen just whatever. Chris Christie also said we could do both. All of them have, I think what the commonality is, all of them have international policy experience, to the point that Nimrata said to Ramaswamy, you don't have foreign relations experience, and it shows. Chris Christie talked about actually going to Ukraine and seeing what was being done by the Russian state and Putin to children, and said, no, they really need our support. Nimrata also made a good point that they are one of our frontline defenses against Russia expanding their territory. If we don't support them, he's not going to stop with just Ukraine. It's going to move into the Baltics, going to move into Poland. So, like, yeah, we kind of need to, in addition to the humanity aspect of this, we also have to make sure that we are helping our allies. And if we lose that, we're also losing our credit rating. We're also losing the value of our dollar, among other things. Like, we're at a complete loss if we do that. And so they were talking about that. And I thought that was interesting that all of them were like, no, Pence said, look at what he did. Nimrata said, look at what he did even today. He kills his enemies. This guy is a murderer. He is a murderer. And we cannot just let him continue to run wild.
Ramaswamy didn't even want to address it because, like I said, in his trolling, he's fine with it until you talk about what Putin actually is, and then he has to address it. He can't address it. So,
right,
here we are.
Here we are. Education. So DeSantis, we hopefully at this point all know what's happening in Florida in terms of education. He boasted about getting rid of CRT and said, we need education in this nation, not indoctrination. That is a direct quote, which I find very, very interesting, because I think we talked about ProggerU a little bit in the last live that we did. But if you don't know about ProggerU, Google it. PRAGERU. It's been in existence, but some of the stuff that's in those cartoons is just outrageous. So he's boasting about all of the changes that he's made. He blamed the lower education levels on schools closing during the pandemic. So I can't even, with him and his Department of Education in the state of Florida need whoopings. And that's
a nice way to say it.
That's the best way that I could say that. Yeah. Because the shutting down the Department of Education. So there were 3 folks who wanted to shut down the Department of Education: Ramaswamy, Mike Pence, and Tim Scott. And I'm sorry, for Burgum. Again, I keep forgetting that he existed. But Pence wanted to shut down the Ramaswamy wanted to shut down the Department of Education and end teacher unions. I think, what's his name? Tim Scott also said he wanted to end teacher unions. He actually said he wanted to break the backs of teacher unions and said that they were crippling the schools. And I just, whatever. And then that's when Ramaswamy started talking about
again. And these are people I'm from the South. So you come trying to tell me about you trying to reform education and make it better. You're from South Carolina. I just don't believe it.
Right.
And somebody's gonna argue with me. Oh, I know plenty of. I'm sure you do. Bless you. I don't think that they should be leading the country. It's like saying, to me, it's equivalent to saying, "Oh, we're gonna let Mississippi." It's like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? Mississippi is leading what?
In what?
Leading who?
Where?
No.
How?
You're not. It's like, okay, so you want to tell, we need to tell New York and we need to tell California. You tell them that when we stop subsidizing your damn state. When you don't need any money from New York or California, then you can say whatever you want. Until now, just shut up. We're to make this the perfect union that we're making it. We are subsidizing, like your lights are. You got South Carolina Power or whatever it's called, probably because of some bond that we sent on down there. Hush, hush. The South Carolina education system, and then this obsession again. You're gonna lose. You're gonna lose. Okay, and Joe got into it too, and it's fine. You're gonna bring all the factories back here. Who is going to? First of all, I can't even see now, but here, you sit here and you tell me that all these people who you want to cancel their Medicare, you don't want them to have health care, they got cancer working in your damn factories, your poison buildings, that they had to be there, and you're like, again. This is also why people aren't going back to work. Like, they're not going back to work in your offices. They saw what you did to Americans won't know. Dying Americans want young Americans to go work in factories. That is not what Americans want to do. It's not. I don't even have to take a poll to know that.
No.
Because whatever her name is on TikTok saying ice cream, and she's making thousands of dollars a day. Okay, she's on TikTok talking about ice cream. Good. Okay, she doesn't have to pull a lever. She's not putting doors on a Cadillac. She's not doing any of that.
And so she makes. I think I saw like $4,000 or $5,000 per stream. I might be overreaching. It's a couple $1,000s per.
How are you going to convince somebody who you've already raised, like they can't even afford, they have to live with their mom. They don't even have, they never thought about retirement. They've never even heard of it, and they're 30. And now you're telling them that you're bringing jobs back so they can work in a battery factory? Who's doing that? And I know who's doing it. There's people that are willing to come here and do it because they don't want to do what they're doing, they don't want to die in their country, which I get it, but you don't want those people here either. So What are you doing? Who is this for? Who are you talking to? And this is why, I'm not an ageist, but if you're 79, you probably don't need to be running the free world. And that's why I can be equal opportunity. Yeah, I'm talking about Joe. However, what Joe is doing, at least Joe's thinking about the infrastructure. Y'all want to rip it all down and then take regulations away. So when bridges collapse, there's no liability that this country has to protect its citizens. How much further do we need to go into the abyss for people? I mean, people are awake and they know. So your attack on woke is also offensive. That's why it also doesn't work, which is also why you're just gonna lose. I think just like it always happens, there's gonna be all this animosity and anticipation and all of this drumming it up so that people are on the edge. Baby, this is one that I'm going to say, unless there's some type of drastic change, there's just not in the cards for these people to be running anything anytime soon.
Oh, absolutely not.
Like
No.
I'll sit here, I'll report on it. I will provide the information. I will suffer through this because it also makes you dumber. It makes you dumber for them to talk at you as if you're not here living here.
Experiencing high heat, experiencing food apartheid,
There was a
experiencing
heat
crime.
dome. It was called a heat dome that was sitting on the United States today in the heartland. The heat index in St. Louis, Missouri was 119
Absolutely not.
today. A heat dome. I don't even know what that is.
Trapped gas, essentially. It's bigly bad is the point of all of this.
A heat dome.
I'm done talking about these people for tonight because
Enough is enough.
Enough is enough. The next what's it called? Debate. The next debate will happen in, I believe, September, and then there will be another one in October. So I guess we'll keep reporting on it and these people. And we'll see who makes it to the final one in
I often say, like, these new kids, I don't want them around me. Like, I don't want to be around them. I don't want to be around that. But these people, even more so. Like, I wouldn't waste my energy to like reach out and shake you or something like to get you, like, because my dad used to call it stinking thinking, but I think it's just like, you call it bigly bad, and I agree with that. It's abysmal. It's actually very, very frightening. Though it would be more frightening if y'all made more sense to more people. And I hate to chuckle, I hate to laugh, but I some of the things that you guys say with a straight face, and then add a scripture to it or call on Jesus or whatever y'all are doing. I am literally trying my best. I'm trying to find the seriousness in it.
It doesn't exist. Which
so
I did want. There was one fact check that I have to insert. At one point, Tim Scott said that the United States has taken down or reduced our carbon footprint by 50%. That is absolutely not the case. In 2020, U.S. greenhouse gas emissions totaled 5,981 million metric tons. The U.S. is actually one of the worst offenders when it comes to climate change, and we have only decreased 7% since 1990 and a 20% decrease since 2005. So that's according to the EPA. So
listen,
it's like the opposite of what he said.
Just like we're ending, I hate to step on your Tim Scott toes, but I got another fact check for that stupid I have another fact check for
it's the struggle of words.
Baiting.
Okay.
That he was doing.
Okay.
Very selective, very careful, very aware. Tim Scott said border crossings have increased dramatically under Biden. And he would love for you to believe that. And that's why we're sending buses up to New York and sending planes to Martha's Vineyard and killing people with buoys in the water. However, the number of border crossings at the U.S.-Mexico border has fluctuated under Biden. In his first year in office, the number of encounters at the border increased significantly and reached a record high of 213,000 crossing in May 2021. Now, this is a culmination. Biden's been in for a year. the pandemic is finally starting to slow down, and
And didn't one of
dictators.
Trump's provisions expire?
Well, I'll finish that. The number of encounters has since decreased as it expired. Once Trump's expired, which it expired in 2022, it's now reached a record low of 99,545 in June 2023.
Bloop.
This is almost 120,000 less than it was at its peak. Significantly lower than it. So when did it, like, are you talking about it had increased because of what was happening and people, dictators assuming office in places like Venezuela and Brazil and Colombia? Like, but if you don't know geography and you don't know history, you're not going to go get the information. You're just going to listen to what they say.
Right. And that's the danger of it. From any party, honestly. From anybody.
They'll tell you whatever, and they all do. And again, like I said, I'm no respecter of persons.
At all.
Joe is old as hell. I know that.
But he's getting stuff done. That's going to do it.
Who cares about the bridges by my grandmama's house? I'm glad. Yeah.
Because
you don't. You want to do
because bridges be falling. I live in Georgia. We had one.
Philadelphia. It just happened. Fire. Truck under bridge. Bridge burned down. New America, 3 years to fix. Japan, 3 days.
Built better. And
on that note.
Yeah.
It's been nice.
I'm Tiffanie Linnell, host of Tiffanie Talks. You can reach me on I guess I am on the Clock app. I'm on the Clock app, Instagram, my website, Facebook at Tiff Linnell on most of those. And you can also go to tifflinnell.com or tiffanylinnell.com. Alex.
You can find me right here, wherever you're watching it. Come back and watch it again. Hit play, hit share. And we will see you next time.
Adios and good night or good morning.
Good day, good morning, whatever's happening wherever you are.